The Cage of Death, Crocodiles and Other Deadly Reptiles in the History of Ipswich. So it's over to you, Harold the H. Ark. Peacock-a-doodle-doo.
Yeah, Danny, when I was in Darwin recently, I did the Cage of Death there, which was an amazing experience that evidently I survived.
Yeah.
That's when I went swimming with crocodiles.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Specifically, I went swimming with a 5.1 metre, 800-kilogram crocodile called Daly. Now, he was captured in the Daly River in the Northern Territory because he was menacing an Indigenous community there, taking their pets and possibly some people. I'll post some videos and photos online for you later on. And interestingly, one of the Indigenous families who later shared a turtle with me when I was up there.
What, eating a turtle?
Yeah, they caught a turtle and ate it.
Is that allowed?
The Indigenous people are allowed to, and they were so generously shared it with me. It was an amazing experience.
Oh, okay.
But tragically, they'd lost a 13-year-old daughter to a croc in a waterhole just not long before.
Wow.
But anyway, the Cage of Death up there reminded me of Ipswich's crocodiles and other dangerous reptiles that were here over the years.
Wow.
Now, Danny, did you know that back in 1949, a snake farm was planned for 10 acres of land here in Ipswich?
Where?
Yeah, it was run by the snake trader, Mr. Warren John Froben. Now, he was a Swiss-German man who immigrated here after the First World War and enjoyed a bit of a colourful career. As well as a snake trader for the European and American markets, Froben was an engineer and a private investigator. Now, I don't think his snake farm actually ever opened, though. Now, in 1957, a freshwater crocodile by the name of Colin was seen wandering the streets of Ipswich until Colin was captured and returned to his owner, so that all was safe. But go back to 1938, that's when Ipswich got its very own city crocodile by the name of Josiah. Now, Josiah was one of the very first zoo crocodiles in Queensland history and had quite a story back in his day. Now, Josiah came from the Adelaide River in the Northern Territory, which is just 100 kilometres away from where my Cage of Death croc came from. Josiah was a gift to the city from the Ipswich politician and federal government minister, Captain Josiah Francis, whose grandfather was actually twice the mayor of Ipswich. Now, Josiah was supposed to be a giant crocodile, but when he arrived, he was quite underwhelming because when he crawled out of the crate at Queen's Park, he was just a tiny 3 feet long. In fact, he was so small, he was in danger of disappearing down the plug hole of his pool. And so someone had to dive in and put the plug in. Now, Josiah was then discovered to not be a male crocodile at all, but it was actually a girl and was so quickly renamed Bunty. Now, Bunty became quite an attraction with large crowds coming to see her sunning herself on a rock. You'd go too, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, just 2 or 3 weeks after she arrived, Bunty got the wrong sort of attention. You see, one night, someone snuck into her cage and she was murdered, which is an awful crime that remains unsolved to this day. No one was ever charged. Now, Bunty's enclosure at Queen's Park became her own Cage of Death, but of the tragic kind. Another crocodile was procured for Ipswich. That was in 1940. This time, the crocodile was slightly bigger, but when it arrived, it was in the depths of winter. It was freezing like it is now. The weather was so cold that the crocodile never came out from under the straw in its enclosure, and so no one could see it. And Ipswich's own Cage of Death became just a dim, dark memory. In fact, Annie, today when you go visit the Nature Centre at Queen's Park, you can see furry animals, but certainly no crocodiles, like back in the good old days.
Well, there's a big croc, Harry, isn't it, on one of the islands up off Cairns, isn't it, off...
yeah, look... last time I was at Port Douglas, you had to drive over a river. There was a big 5 metre croc just on a mud bank there. So they are everywhere in the wild. And certainly when I was up in the territory, up in Arnhem Land, like there were tracks everywhere, there nests everywhere. You could hear them. It was you had to be careful where you trod.